Hopefully I won't be. I'll probably be okay with that.
Testing.
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 We are good.
Yes.
Got it. Oh, was it English today? Yeah, I skipped. Yeah, that makes sense. I skipped Mr. Thompson's class because he was out.
Yeah.
Was it pretty brutal?
The prompts weren't as bad as they have been,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just 2 hours and 15 minutes of writing.
Yeah, is it handwritten? Yeah, I did mine online, so that was much nicer.
Typing, yeah. And then I'm left-handed, so I had to take my watch off too. So then I went to check the time. He's like, "What are you doing on your electronics?" I was like, "I'm checking the time. I can't see the clock from my seat."
Yeah, those are brutal. Are you taking the
Okay, then.
one too? Those are both.
Yeah.
You're disqualified from exam this year. I took those last year.
Okay, I know they do.
This year.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm not.
Because I'd like to win the,
Every Sunday.
every
Check 1, 2.
If you
The
don't
real
mind.
one. On the real one,
Could you
I'm just
fix
like,
that, please?
I don't even care. I'm not studying for it. I'm checking.
Now that you said that out loud,
Yeah,
if
really.
you
if I
win,
do.
somebody's gonna be like, wait a minute.
1607.
I just like watched all of the Josie videos like 2 nights before. Perfect for studying. And like I took notes on it and stuff.
Oh, I always take.
Do you read the textbook?
No,
Oh, okay. I was gonna say none of us read.
I take notes in class. I read the first 4 chapters of the summer. That's as far as I got.
That's
If
how
you
it
were,
was.
right?
Yeah. If I-
And then he just gives you track of things. So you have to get like X points each time.
we did that.
No, he didn't do discipline, but he makes it like a game. And then if you get like double points, you can like level up and then you get like a new ability. So I've leveled up every unit, and then the last unit is you can omit 1 test grade, so your worst test grade you just get rid of it, and I'll bring your grade up. Okay, that's in the lowest test grade is like a B+. So it's
How many
really
more
not gonna-
hours do you have?
Yeah. We didn't really even take any tests in that class. And we took them online. We did. And you just like default like Quizlet
Yeah.
answers, like you
Yeah.
just Google the questions
Yeah.
and come up, which was pretty sweet.
Yeah,
Because we used to take them like at home.
yeah.
So we did all this stuff.
Thank you. Are
Are
we rowdy?
Turn me off.
Yes, I got it. If you have to figure out how to send them those documents, that's great. Thank you. I gotta go. Love you. Bye.
Did we?
Live stream link is good to go.
Okay, well, what, we got like 30 seconds or
We
something?
have 2 minutes.
Oh,
Then your mic might be hot.
I don't know.
Sheila's mic might be hot. Your mic might be hot. It is. So you can go right.
Do you know what these like things hang from the shelves are?
No. Some sort of form of viney plant, but that's all I got for you.
No, I mean like a pillow.
Oh. I have no idea. I really don't have in the library, like ever.
I don't either.
I wonder why would you provide a pillow? That's just giving the student an opportunity.
Good boy. Put you to work. That's awesome. He really is an honorary school board member.
Yeah.
You're an honorary school board member, Sean.
I am.
Sure.
I'll grab one. Yeah, thank you. Oh, big boys today.
That's what I was saying.
This is to dehydrate me, then I can hydrate with this.
Kombucha's good. No, it's not. No, it's not.
You're a kombucha person?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I drink one after every shift. I'd probably have like 4 or 5 a week.
I don't drink
I'm also-
that
thank you.
often.
I should have. Yeah, it's like my favorite thing ever. It's so good.
I tried it first when we did the fermentation lab at Yams class.
Oh, yeah. What brand do you usually get? Do you get this
All
brand?
right,
No, I
We're gonna
usually
do
get
this.
like the,
Vita?
yeah.
Oh, Houston version. It's all right.
oh, right.
GT's fine.
Good evening. Welcome to the April meeting of the Merrimack Valley School Board. We will begin with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first order of business tonight is to vote on business from our non-public session. We have 2 items. Is there a motion regarding a request for early admission to kindergarten?
I would like to propose that we allow
The student.
Avery. No, the student.
the student, or I didn't know if I should say that.
Yeah.
The student to come to kindergarten.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
The motion passes. She may start kindergarten in the fall. The second item is to approve the staff nominations. Is there a motion?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on to minutes of the previous meetings. Could I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Additions and corrections? Sally?
I only have 2, and they both occur in item 20 under the roll call vote. The first one is to include Laura Vincent's last name and maybe punctuate it with a period. And the second is to insert a hyphen in my last name, and that's it.
Thank you. I have one, item 15. I believe that when I was talking about community discussions, I said that we would have one before the end of this school year and the other 2 by the end of the calendar year. Okay? Anyone else? All those in favor of accepting the minutes as corrected, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Where am I? I now open the floor for public comment on items that are on the agenda for this evening's meeting. Is there anyone who wishes to comment? Hearing none, we will move on. Finance report. Hillary?
On pages 10 through 25 is just April's pretty much the same as usual, mostly special ed contracted services and overages and maintenance and operation costs through the district. We're still waiting on final grant approval on some of it. And actually, we have an update tomorrow. The technology line overage will clear because we're receiving that ECF reimbursement in a different way this time. Next month, I'll have an unassigned fund balance. Currently, right now, we have a good grasp on our fund balance. I just can't run you a report because we're switching between two systems. So we'll have that next month.
Can I ask you a question? So the ECF will cover the whole 85,000?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
The 325,000, that's not gonna be reimbursed, just the million, 1.5
Not
million.
the full million, but there's grant funds coming into the million, and there's net money that will ask to be transferred. and different things like that.
Okay.
I didn't
The 325 is an overage.
Yeah, you might want to revisit
Okay.
that.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the finance report?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need to back up. There was a second set of minutes from the Board of Recount meeting on March 15th, and I forgot to do that when we voted on minutes. So could I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Sorry about that. We're at good news.
Okay, on pages 27 through 52, you will see the good news for this month's packet. You'll notice for the first time this year, there are pictures of spring, and there are some kids out there, and there's pale green grass, and some kids not in snowmobile suits. So it's nice to see.
Whoa, there's hope.
A sure sign that spring is on the way. You also see students engaged in learning. You'll see students working in the arts, a lot of science, and a lot of stuff about maple syrup. So you'll notice that there are some themes there. But just thank you to all of the administrators who put this together. The good news is really it's 25 pages of really good stuff. So I encourage everyone to look at that, just packed with really good information. We have some administrators here. I'm looking at Stephanie and Jamie. I don't know, Stephanie and Jamie and Brian. Brian, you were slightly obscured. If you have any additional information to add to the good news.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for being here, and thanks for the great good news that you put in there every month.
Moving right along, student representatives.
So spring sports games are starting this week. So we had the girls lacrosse game. Their first game was today. Boys lacrosse is tomorrow. And then baseball and softball start their season on Wednesday. AB students are beginning to prepare for their exams by taking practice tests this week and next week. And NHS is finishing up the service projects, which we started back in November. And we're preparing to welcome the incoming sophomores and juniors into National Honor Society for next year.
All right, so prom tickets go on sale tomorrow. Shout out to Sean, he made the tickets. Yeah, very happy for that. So yeah, I got to hit the ATM on the way home, get some money, and get some prom tickets. And I got my tux on Tuesday.
All right,
that's
there you
cool.
go.
And we have a career fair coming on Friday. We're gonna have a wide range of career presentations like the trades, healthcare, childcare, military, etc. So that's very cool. And as for my joke, of course, what's the difference between a hippo and a Zippo? One is really heavy and the other's a little lighter.
Oh. Well, you didn't tell us about the fact that you have been awarded the scholarship from the New Hampshire School Board Association
That
for
is good
school.
news.
That is very good news. We congratulate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you know where you're going to school yet?
Yes, I'm going to UNH.
Excellent. Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you. Couldn't have done it without you guys.
Okay, committee reports, curriculum?
Sorry, I'm not used to this. So curriculum, we met March 14th, which seems like a really long time ago now. I didn't already report out on that meeting though, right? I don't think I did.
I don't
We
think
met
so.
right before the last board meeting, but anyway, so the main topic of that meeting was we talked a lot about world languages, looked at some historical information and also thinking about the future, what we think that might look like going forward, pros and cons of offering world language at the elementary level. We did ask Randy mostly, I guess, to go and put together some questions for the elementary administration, world language teachers, to just help us have a better understanding of what that might look like going forward, and how to best utilize all of our staff for our learners. And then we also talked about out-of-school learning experiences. Randy gave us a grant update regarding a field trip bus, and I think that was just about it. Any
Okay.
questions?
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Do we need to set another?
Okay,
Oh, okay, all right.
thank you.
Policy,
Yes. Policy committee met on March 21st, and we went back and looked at the policy BEA, which is in your packet for a second read. We did take a straw poll from you guys last meeting and discussed moving the board meeting times up to 6:30 with an ending of 10, so the policy reflects that. We also talked about having the meeting or proposed having the meeting on the third Monday. Randy did a little bit of research for us on that, and one of the potential issues with that third Monday we would have 3 months that we would need to shift our meeting to a different day. Whereas the first Monday yields only 2 potential changes, and our current second Monday yields 2 potential changes. The reason for changing our meeting from the second Monday of the month was to allow the some of our members to attend another meeting that really impacts our school district. So that was why we were looking, sorry, the city council meeting, thank you. So we would like to possibly change from the second to the third or the first, but again, we can make that change if we need to tonight. And then the other policy that we brought forward that we would like to have action on is policy FF. We didn't receive any feedback, Randy nor any of the committee members didn't receive any feedback on changes to the facility naming policy. So we'd like to have action on that policy. Probably should take them one at a time. So for policy BEA, I guess the question I have is, do we want to look at the first Monday of the month versus the third? Because we'd need to make that change to the policy if we were going to
so.
revisit it.
The chatter that I was hearing is that the Andover meets the first week of the month and first Tuesday of the month. And the SAU folks who have to go to both of those meetings would just as soon do it all in one week and be done with it. So they would ask for the first Monday. And as long as we said it, I don't know that it makes really any difference to us as long as we know when it's going to be, right? And the idea is to switch so that folks can attend the Concord City Council meetings on the second Monday.
Right.
All right. And where does it say what time we're ending? Oh, 10.
Yeah, no later than 10,
No later than 10.
unless we vote.
Unless we vote, okay. Which is essentially the same. We were at 7:15 and it was 10:45.
Right,
before.
so we're just
Okay, so-
shifting the time
Got it.
to reflect
Okay.
the earlier start time.
Fair enough.
Can I make a motion?
Yes,
We I'd like to move policy BEA with as printed, except I would like to, instead of the third Monday of each month, change it to the first Monday of each month.
okay. Is there a second? I have a question about the third paragraph. Which is exactly the same as it's, I mean, I know that's not changed,
Mhm.
but it says, should the board offer time for public comments, such comments may be restricted to agenda items only, and the board may decline members of the public the opportunity to speak on items not on the agenda. That's really not the way we do it.
Mhm.
So why doesn't the policy read the way we actually do it?
Yeah, let Randy respond.
Excuse me. Well, and if that's the case, fine, and we can do our own.
And we had a discussion that, because there is some pending LSRs that have now gone across the aisle that may change this, and we're gonna have to revisit this in a couple of months
Oh,
if it does change.
Mhm.
Currently, the way that we structure our meetings is the way that the new law is written. So it really wouldn't be a change to any of our practice. We would then go in and change the policy to match our practice.
okay.
But we could
But it
certainly
isn't-
entertain that change now if you'd like, while
I
we're
mean-
making the other changes.
Sorry, I don't mind my motion being changed.
I don't know. It works the way we do it, and we think that it may be the law, but if we're waiting to have the exact wording, then I'm not saying we have to change it now. I'm saying that ultimately it should reflect what we actually do.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
So you could make the change, and then if there's a change to the law, we could revisit this and make that one quick change and probably just do a one read
Okay.
adjustment to the
All right.
policy.
I think the law, I mean, it is what we do.
It
Right.
it
We
is.
align with
Exactly.
law.
Exactly.
That's
okay.
being proposed.
That is
Yep.
being proposed.
So my suggestion would be that we reword the third paragraph to meet what we actually do.
And I'm okay with that.
Okay?
I have a question.
And as the seconder, you are okay?
Mhm.
Yes.
I have a question. On nights when we have non-public meetings, like sometimes we have them with our lawyer, occasionally, like special requests and stuff, are we gonna then start the public meeting late? And how are we gonna try to communicate to the public what time we're gonna start? How is that gonna work?
Oh, you mean like tonight we had a non-public meeting before our meeting?
This would only be for public meetings of the school board, that you'd have public comment. You don't have public
I'm
comment
not
at
talking about public
non-public
comment. I'm talking about the
meetings.
start.
She was,
She's back on
she
the start
changed a
time.
different question.
It's in the same, it's all in the same.
I would have to start our non-public early.
Well, but people can't get here before like 6:30.
Right,
So how
so,
are we going to communicate to the public what time the public meeting's going to
The
start?
public meeting will start at 6:30.
right, and it will be when we post it. So we notice and post every single meeting. So it's on the website. We post it physically at the SAU and at the location of the meeting per statute. So we can also discuss with administrators in their weekly parent updates to identify that there's been a change in the start time of school board meetings. So we'll have it out there in the community. We'll have it out there for folks who watch and pay attention to what time board meetings start. There'll be plenty of information relative to that.
So would we say something like non-public meeting at 6:30, school board meeting will start at 7?
No.
So if you, our
Or we
public
can't do-
meetings are going to, if this policy passes, the public meeting of the school board, instead of starting at 7:15, will start at 6:30. When we had something like we had tonight, where we had parents with young children petition the board, we have dealt with that typically in different ways. We try to be respectful of people's time. So when we posted this meeting, and you'll note on the agenda in the packet, there's information relative to the actual start time of this meeting. So that's posted on the district website, that's posted on the meeting notice. So anytime that we have any sort of change from what is typical, and typical in this case would be 6:30 instead of 7:15, that's well noticed, not only in the district, the posting of the board meeting, but on the actual website as well.
I think if I understand correctly, your concern is that people aren't able to actually make those earlier times. So if we started that meeting at, say,
Right.
5:45, so how would how does the posting question bring people here sooner?
So if it was a non-public that we're starting at 5:45, we'd only start it at 5:45. If we had a quorum, we'd do some work beforehand to make sure we could have a quorum of the board
Mhm.
and the petitioner would be here. Otherwise, we would have that non-public session within the context of the greater board meeting.
Okay, great.
So in the past, Laura, if you remember, we've a lot of times had non-public after the public session. In
Yeah,
fact,
we
that's
might
how
have
it's
to
on the
go back to
agenda.
doing that.
So, there would be times that's when the non-public, but when it's the early entrance, as Mark said, we have young children possibly coming before the board.
mean,
That
you
was for the
could-
shift.
Non-public first, public meeting room.
Yeah, and that's what we did for this meeting tonight.
Okay, you said?
Any other questions?
So I guess I just am looking for some clarification. So what are we actually doing to paragraph 3? Are we striking a bunch of language? Are we amending the language?
I would say that starting with the sentence that says additionally,
Mm-hmm.
the board will allow public comments at the meeting. Will allow 2 public comment periods at the meeting. The first will be restricted to agenda items only, and the second will be, what's the right word? Open? And the second,
Will be the,
Can I?
Will
say
be-
something? Can we
yes.
just Put what the law is gonna be?
Yeah, I would say that
Can we
it's, a-
just,
Yeah.
I mean, if we already do what
Yeah.
the new law is proposing, can we just use that new law language?
Well, it's because it's not a law yet, we certainly can, but it also already says may,
Mhm.
and we are.
Yeah.
So it's not saying anything that we're not doing. So it is still matched up with our practice. We just happen to, you as a board, have chosen to have the 2 public comments. So it's not saying anything that we're not doing. Right?
If I could mention, it does, the recommendation is from the New Hampshire Municipal Association that in allowing public comment, that you also provide some guidelines in that the public is allowed to speak first for X amount of time. They recommend 2 to 3 minutes, and that no individual can speak a second time before everyone is allowed first time to speak. So you may want to put some more clarification into this policy before you run with it, in that these are the recommendations we're putting out there. Because obviously, if you open it as a free-for-all, there is the concern that it could have the perception of a public hearing, and that people would be upset that they weren't informed that this was happening. So I think if you put a little more clarity to it in terms of the limitations in the process, you want people to sign in, you want them to state their name and address to make sure they're resident of the district. You want everyone to have a chance, equal chance to speak, and then once everybody's had an equal chance to speak, then have a second turn if they need to have a second.
okay.
Then why don't we just
Let's withdraw that part of the motion and ask the policy committee to work on that paragraph to make it align with what we actually do. And the law.
Could we have action on the?
We
that
will have
policy?
action on the
Start time
start time
and the day.
and day. And with, Tracy, would you withdraw the second part of your motion that I forced you to put in and?
Sure, I withdraw
Shouldn't have.
all that stuff that.
Yeah, that stuff. Yeah, it's all my
Can I
my
actually-
mistake.
can I say, yeah.
Thank you.
There is a policy about public participation separate of this one.
Yep.
So that would be the policy that would include what Lori was just referring
Yep.
to. And the House bill is House Bill 1195. And I think it's wise to wait for that language
Yeah.
to be
Okay.
codified. And then you could just say per update, it's gonna, if it gets voted in, it will modify RSA 91A2.
Yep.
So I would say per 91A2, public comment is allowed at MBSD board meetings or something simple like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to make your
91A2,
lives
so
more
it's
difficult,
just
right?
like,
Okay,
um,
so the motion on the floor is to change our meeting date to the first Monday and the meeting time to 6:30 with an end time of 10. That's all.
That is correct.
Any other questions?
Starting when?
Good.
Oh,
Starting with the new school year.
really?
We could start next month.
Why can't we
have
start
to
next
notice it
month?
Anyway,
It will? I
We can.
thought it wouldn't start until
Yeah, I agree with
July.
the new school year or the fiscal.
The new
year,
fiscal year.
Yeah, something
I thought for sure that it wouldn't start until
not
July.
immediate, so you have time to notify the public.
Because,
And
yes,
then
I think
boost
that,
your change.
well,
Okay,
that's just my opinion.
Fair
So,
enough.
My opinion is that
beginning in June,
July.
July, beginning in July.
With the July meeting.
and that will be the first time that it gets moved from the first Monday, because the first Monday, I believe, is July 4th.
Should we wait until, but the first,
It'd be-
the September would be.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Right, as well.
September's the
Yeah.
other. So
There's only 2 and we're going to hit them right away.
Okay, but we're gonna, yes, starting with the July meeting. All right,
Okay.
are we good? All those in favor say aye.
I
Aye.
Opposed? All right, done.
So the second policy that we need action on was policy FF, which was the facility naming policy. And there were no changes to this from our last or our first read.
Could I have a motion to accept policy FF
As written,
as written?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion.
I have just a question. I mean, so, I've never named a building or a bench before. The only element of this that gives me some pause, and this may be standard practice where this is concerned, is the last bullet, which has to do with, the raising or contributing a sum of money. And it just seems to me that, is it standard practice that people can buy buildings? And do we want to participate in that part of this practice? I mean, I just wonder whether or not we could leave that off and keep all of the other elements intact.
I think though that I wondered about that also, but the last paragraph where it says the board reserves a right to decline any donation conditioned on a naming right unacceptable to the district. So I think that just because somebody, just because Peggy Jones Blanchard, who really gave us some cash, had a building built, but we didn't really want Peggy Jones Blanchard's name associated with Merrimack Valley. We don't have to say that, yes, we have to name it after Peggy Jones Blanchard.
I hear that. I just am concerned that the promise of donations might soften any objection people might have regarding naming rights. Right? I just muddies the ethical waters, I think.
We did something like that with the game field when we raised money. What did we do? We named
Sold bricks.
the school.
Sold bricks. Yeah.
Yeah, the walkway had.
Yeah.
But it didn't
there
get
was a-
named for one person.
No, and I would say that
Maybe it's a billboard or something.
when we first in the conversation of when we were looking to redo the MVHS gymnasium, there was some protracted conversation about whether or not we could reach out to vendors and it could become the National Lumber, where we were looking to see if that was a smart thing. Ultimately, we decided not to do that, but it was certainly part of the conversation.
It's sort of long been the practice, not a written policy maybe, but the practice not to name buildings after people. And I think that has served us well.
Well, it's because we've never had that policy before.
Yeah, I don't think money needs to be part of the criteria.
So what you're suggesting is that final bullet point should be struck?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion before us to accept the policy. If somebody wants to change that, we need a motion to
And then
amend.
I'll do I move that the concluding bullet of policy FF that reads, the individual or group is instrumental in raising or contributing a sum of money significant enough to build, construct, or procure a property, structure, or durable goods to have a lasting impact on students or programs, be struck.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? We're going to vote on the amendment first. All those in favor of striking that bullet, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now we're back to the motion to accept
As
Pol-
amended.
policy FF as amended. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
Okay. Motion carries. Are you all set, Melissa?
There is a policy BEDB in there for first read. If you have any feedback on that one, please send it to Randy or myself.
Okay. Do you need to set a meeting?
Yes, we should set a meeting. Next Monday? Does that work?
Easter Monday. Does it have to, well,
With the
Well,
following
people-
Monday's vacation, so
yeah, but people won't have enough time to
give us feedback on
give
this
us
one.
feedback on this. What, can we meet right before the school board on the 9th?
I think that will work.
That's prime time.
Prime time.
Okay.
Yep, that works.
6 o'clock,
6.
SAU?
the SAU.
All right. Committee report from transportation.
we met on March 22nd. We had a request for bus transportation to the middle school, and that it was within the walk zone on Kayak Way, which is a new development that comes down onto Canal Street. It's within the walk zone, and there's a crosswalk. It's a flat stretch, fairly safe stretch of road. So we denied that request.
Okay. Anything else? Long-range plan.
Well, we've discussed an update of our 2016 communication plan, and we're looking at making the language a little more generic when it comes to digital technology, because this is changing so quickly. And so we've given it back to administration for an update and to strategically shorten it so it's more specific and direct.
Okay.
Okay.
And do you want to say anything about the meeting on the 10th?
It's still penciled in.
Oh,
so I
it's not definite.
don't-
Oh, okay.
It's close to being definite, and Randy and I have a couple of meetings lined up with Joe Miller, who the
Good,
Long Range
yeah.
Plan Committee has been using to help with some of our strategic planning. And we've already begun speaking with David Miller, connecting the long range plan to the pillars at the high school relative to the vision of a graduate. And we're also trying to connect with food service and wellness folks to try to make some one-stop shopping for all of your wellness and academic needs.
So pencil in May
Pencil in May
10th on your calendar. It's going to be a great
That's a
night. We're going to
Tuesday.
combine a variety of things and pull them all together towards one central purpose.
And one of the things that we're attempting to do, oh, never mind, that's a different night. We have a May 11th one that
Yeah, well.
That you're gonna
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about.
Yeah.
it's gonna be a busy
So
week.
What time is the May 10th meeting?
It's not-
TBD.
Okay,
Pencil in 6 o'clock.
I am gonna
Okay.
pencil, that was exactly what I was
Pencil.
gonna say.
Ah,
There'll
yes,
be
there
food?
will be food. Okay.
High school.
That's
All
one of
right.
the things we have to name it.
Um,
So Chris is going to test out some.
Army's March.
Moving on. There is no old business, new business, personnel update. What?
So,
I'm sorry.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
An issue came up in an email that was sent to me earlier today that falls under old business. Am I allowed to bring that up? Or should I wait and tag it on to the end of new business?
I don't know. If it's not, is it an action item on the agenda?
It's not. It was a constituent asking about what the district's COVID testing policy is.
If you want to just direct that to administration, we can deal with that.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be what we would do with any kind of public complaints per policy KEB.
It was more clarification.
Okay, yeah, just if you send it my way, I can certainly respond to it.
Okay.
All right, new business, personnel update.
So in your packet, there's a list of resignations, people that we have received resignations from at this point. They're all effective on June 30th.
Okay,
Can I ask a question about that? So we're losing 4 nurses.
We are.
Do we know, I mean, have they spoken to why? I mean, that's a significant number, and I think
Yes.
something's going on there that we need to know about.
Yes, without naming names, I will tell you that one person had been retired and is re-retiring. She only came back for 1 year. One person has decided to retire early. Obviously, the nursing profession has been difficult the last couple of years. One has been working multiple jobs and has decided that it's time to work only one job now. So she's moving on and has found something that involves travel. And the other one has some family issues that she needs to be able to attend to during the day. So she's going back to work nights at the hospital.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But can you also give us a little update on, we have some people in the pipeline to replace these
We
folks?
do.
I mean, when I saw this list, I went, oh dear,
Yes.
what are we gonna do?
No.
So give us the good news to go with that, please.
So we do have some good candidates in the pipeline. We're hoping to wrap one of them up this week, and we have a lead on another person who has not yet applied, who is a former colleague of somebody who we hired, who is very happy here and encouraging her friend to come here as well. So I'm encouraged that we'll have probably 2 of the vacancies wrapped up in the next week or so.
That makes it feel a little better, I
Right.
think. Okay, we're on federal grant general assurances.
Sure.
What is
why
that?
not?
Tell me about that.
So this is something you may recall from the past few years. It's really just something that Sealy will sign off on behalf of the board, and we just need it in the minutes that we've read these general procedures as far as anyone receiving any federal grants. So it's really just acknowledgement. We already follow all of the rules and jumping through all of the hoops for the grants. And this is just to get it into the minutes that the board is aware of the policy.
So I need a motion to accept.
Yeah, I don't even know if we need a motion. It just needs to be in the minutes that
Oh,
you're going to
okay.
sign.
Okay.
And you have
This isn't the one we
power.
talked about last time. I thought we did. Oh,
That was different when it was
oh,
connected
okay.
to policy.
Got it. All right. So you're saying we don't need to vote on this?
I believe it just needs to be in the minutes.
Okay, you've got it.
I would feel more comfortable if we made a motion to accept it and authorize the board.
Sealy to sign.
Yes.
Yep.
I would feel more
All right, make that motion, please.
So I make a motion to accept the government guidelines as reflected in our packet and to make motions for Sealy to sign off on those as well.
All right, is there a second? Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that carries. Emergency hire authorization. We do this about this time every year, right?
Yes, we're doing it 1 month early this year. One of the reasons being is that they're across the state, and regardless of industry, there's a little bit more turnover this year. And we want to make sure, as I've been putting it, that we're first in the buffet line rather than last in the buffet line. So if we can wrap up good candidates and execute contracts in a timely manner, we'll be able to get ink to contract sooner. And I promise to wield any additional authority wisely.
All right. Could I have a motion to allow the superintendent to have emergency hire authorization from now until,
Usually it's the September
September?
meeting.
till the September meeting?
But you'll still bring them to us.
I'll still bring them, just let you know that, yeah, we'll still communicate who the hirees are.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I just want to let you know that,
Manifest journal entries.
oh, sorry, thank you. Manifest and journal entries. Tracy
Yes,
and
I
I
did
have
sign
signed off on them. You've all seen them electronically. Could I have a motion to accept those?
Sure. I'll move that.
Sure.
I'll second it.
Yeah. Let's get formal here, Brittany.
Okay, I
Um,
move the manifest and journal entries.
Okay.
And I second it.
Questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Now can I say something?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. You may recall that we talked last month about getting out into the community and having some meetings with folks less formally than our board meetings and hear some feedback and have some discussion. The Boscawen PTA has invited us to co-host their next meeting with them for the purpose of having that kind of discussion, which I think is a great way to start out. Their meeting is Wednesday, May 11th. This gets to be a really crazy week, but I intend to be there, and I very much hope that a good number of you can be there. I know that some folks have standing Wednesday night conflicts, and I get that. But would you please let me know as soon as possible whether you can join me at that meeting? I don't know the time. Do you know the time?
I do. Give me 1 second.
Is it PTA or
It,
PTG?
they are
Good
actually a PTA, I think.
Okay. thank
Or it
you.
could be a PTO.
I don't know. They are a
They are a PTA?
PTA. It's beyond my comprehension. They belong, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, it's Wednesday,
May 11th.
May 11th at, do we know?
At 6 p.m.
6 p.m. at Boscawen Elementary.
So the tentative agenda, we've been communicating with Jeff Druin, the principal at Boscawen, and he's been communicating with his PTA, would be a welcome and goals for the evening. Celie would open up the meeting, prefacing that is extending conversations from the board's small school study and a promise to talk about practices that we want to see in all of our schools. Open feedback on the MVSD. It's a board's chance to hear from Boscawen families and the communities in an open format. Celia will provide some guidelines for the discussion, perhaps to talk about strengths, challenges, some opportunities and dreams, entertain some questions, answer when we can. If not, promise to get back to people with the pertinent information. Talk about potentially opening access to some of our smaller schools for Boscawen families who are in the northern part of Boscawen. That came as a result of the small school study to open up potentially the opportunity for some folks to enroll at Salisbury or Webster Elementary if that was more convenient for them, or if they were looking for a smaller school setting. A chance to identify some of the great things happening around the district. And for the PTA, it would be a chance for them to market how to get involved in the PTA and becoming an involved parent. And we could talk more overtly about communicating with the board and some of the opportunities that are already out there to gain relevant information about what's happening.
Will there be snacks?
There may be snacks.
Perfect.
I don't want to promise anything that I can't deliver.
Yeah, but we'll work on snacks. Yeah, we can do that. Okay, that's all I have. Let me know if you can be there, please. Randy,
All right, I have a slightly lengthier report than is typical, but it's all good news. So I think you, please bear with me. So first, from our system of care world, our Riverbend School Liaison has started work in district. Her work so far has been on systems level work with behavioral health, staff, behavioral and student safety practices, response and referrals, creating trauma-informed PD and trainings for district staff, helping families with community mental health referrals and resources, and what we call a warm handoff instead of just giving folks the paperwork and saying good luck, somebody that can actually take them through the process. And is also a member of our district community leadership team and the school tiered team meetings. So that's been welcome. And we're excited to resume in-person school-based services through Riverbend. That's finally back on board, which is great. And we're also happy to welcome Concord Hospital and their community health coordinator to our district community leadership team as well. So it's good. We're really expanding that group, and I think it's really going to help to highlight the community involvement that we have in that leadership team. And on to grants. You've often heard Mark comment that we chase down every grant opportunity. And as you heard Hillary reference, Chris Vos, our CTO, has been intimately involved with the ECF, the Emergency Connectivity Fund. And we have 400 Chromebooks coming in this coming week and just chasing that. So this is money that's in addition to the ESSER funding that's out there for specifically to keep kids and family and staff connected. So we're looking to take care of some of that with some grant funds that would typically come out of the budget. So we are chasing down. We'll take every single dollar that we qualify for. And Chris has been instrumental in navigating. It's not as simple as just filling something out and pressing submit. So, hats off to him for sticking with that and jumping through all those hoops for us. And we're looking at the third round of funding is coming up very soon. So we're going to keep on pushing that. We're finishing up new teacher visits this week. And as you recall, before, the stuff hit the fan, we were, trying to do these meetings in December. But it's actually been nice to get out at this time of year as well. We can have, the in-person visits and, some of the same things that you've heard from the past. The people that are coming here from other districts can't believe the difference in how much support there is in every aspect of their job. So we're very excited to hear that when we sit down with folks from other districts, because they bring that perspective. Brand new teachers feel supportive. They don't feel like they lack for anything. They said, both the teacher mentor program and the fact that, Pam stops by, Mary Poppins like when they're thinking about something or when they really need her, which had me revisit some of the comments that I made to you back in December of 2020. I suggested to the board that we consider adopting the term Pam-mazing or Pam-tastic as things that would be part of our lingo. So just something for you to consider, and I'll pass it on to Mark.
She really is amazing. She's great. Okay. Dr. McLean.
Okay, well, thank you. Randy mentioned our new teacher meetings, and those have been extraordinarily beneficial to us. It's great for us to hear from folks that we are bringing into the district, whether they're new to the district or new to the profession. It's important for us to understand how they feel about their time here and whether or not they feel as though they have their voice and they can be creative. We tell them that we're showing up with 4 thumbs up, and we do this if they have creative ideas, and we want them to be able to throw stuff against the wall and see if it sticks. Our only caveat is they can't put kids at risk when they're doing that, but we want folks to be creative and to feel that they're in an environment where they're professionally challenged and they're in an environment where they are able to grow and to continue to evolve in what they're doing. So it's been really beneficial to us. And as Randy mentioned, everyone always talks so glowingly about Pam Hill and her ability to suddenly appear when they have a question. I won't use the dated reference that Dr. Wormold used with Mary Poppins, which probably some of our new teachers have no idea who that is.
Oh, come
So I'd also like to bring to the board's attention some legislation that is popping up. And you may have heard about some of this legislation already. HB 1393, which is about tax caps. And it's interesting on HB 1393 in that some of the language within the context of that LSR doesn't necessarily say how you would calculate, whether it's based on the state per pupil average, whether it's based on the district's per pupil average from the previous year, and it includes an inflation escalator on there. I can tell you that in my experience, this is my 8th year as the superintendent, the board's proposal for the budget each year has always been underneath this is going to be a guess, it's always been underneath the inflation CPI index. So I don't know how much this is going to impact us, but it's something to be aware of. It feels like there's still a lot of fleshing out to do in regard to calculations and what this would mean. SB 420 about extraordinary needs. We've talked about that a little bit. That looks like it's gained support in both houses. It actually would mean about $20,000. I think it's actually exactly $20,841 for 200,000. Excuse me, I missed a zero. $200,841 for the Merrimack Valley School District. This is an extraordinary need grant. And there's still some questions about how we attribute that out, is if we take that off the top and then apportion it, or if it's directed at particular communities. So we'll find that out. I'm sure that's a DRA question that we can find out, and Hillary and I will be all over that one. HB 1417, very interesting. So for folks who have been paying attention for the last 10 years or so, you may recall in 2011, there stopped being a contribution from the state in regard to state retirement. So it's been 0%. It was as high as 40%. It was 35% for a while, and it's been 0% since 2011. HB 1417 is about reinstituting a 7.5% contribution from the state when it comes to retirement. And that thus far has gained support. And if anyone feels so inclined, they can certainly reach out to a legislator, their local legislators. There are links that everyone has, and or sign in favor or opposition of this particular bill. So I just wanted to bring those. I try to bring some legislation in each one of our updates. I had the pleasure of working with the Plymouth State University interns a few Fridays ago to talk to them about cover letters, resumes, interview. And it seems like every year I'm asked to be the superintendent that does the fishbowl interview with a candidate. I think I found a great music candidate for us for the elementary level. I saw the person's name in the list. I reached out to the elementary administrators who are screening those interview folks to make sure this person got a look, because there was a young gentleman in the crowd who was enthusiastic about being the person that was in a fishbowl interview. And to add some additional pressure for this young gentleman, I invited some other superintendents in the room to join the mock interview and said, you're never going to be sitting with one person in an interview, so I want to put some additional pressure on you. And I actually said that before the person volunteered, so they knew what they were getting into. I did notice when he raised his hand, he was sweating. So I hope that I didn't make it worse, but did really, really well. And it's great each year. It's just great to market Merrimack Valley and Andover in that manner, and to connect with folks and to see those folks actually apply for jobs afterwards is great. I also offer my services to, when we meet in smaller groups, I tell people, I'll look at your resume, I'll give you feedback, I'll look at your cover letter and give you feedback. And not often are people brave enough to send that out to, sometimes they do, but I tell them that we look at a lot of cover letters and a lot of resumes, and there are ways to make yourself stand out, because the purpose of those is to get your foot in the door and then show people who you are. And I just give them, based on my perspective and my experience, things that I think stand out and they should be looking to do with their cover letters. And it's always, again, a very beneficial experience. I also wanted to mention, you heard, I don't know if it was Sam or if it was Ms. Nudd that talked about the career fair. Was that you, Sam?
Yes.
We're going to take that opportunity here to reinvigorate some of our business partnerships. We've been connecting with the counseling department prior to COVID, and I look forward to when we don't say prior to COVID as a preface to sentences. We had a burgeoning business partnership agreement that we had floated around and worked with some folks in the Chamber of Commerce and some other folks to cultivate these leveled business partnership agreements. We are going to be reinvigorating that. We're going to look to use the career fair as a way to spearhead some of that movement. I did want to mention there's going to be a press release coming out soon, and hopefully I'm not blowing up the press releases spot, but they said it was going to be coming out soon 2 weeks ago and hasn't come out yet. So Randy, we're among an award winner again. Randy recently was awarded the New Hampshire School Administrators Association Outstanding Service Award for the year 2022.
Whoa. Awesome.
So we'll be able to celebrate that a little bit more. I'm still waiting for that press release.
So that's the one where the poor assistant superintendent has to put up with the overwhelming superintendent.
Yeah. So yeah, one of the Randy during Randy's testimony for this award, he said, "My job description says duties as assigned, and I'm called designee."
Yes.
So they felt bad. No, actually, Randy is great. Has an outstanding reputation around the state, and we're lucky to have him.
Yes.
Indeed.
So we continue to work with the NHSAA, and I've had the opportunity to meet with a lot of the new hires that you saw here tonight. I'm always impressed and invigorated by the new perspectives and new talent that we're able to attract to the district. Randy and I were asked to present at this June's NHSAA June conference. We will be bringing some virtual reality setups for folks to look at and dabble in. We said we didn't want to present. We wanted to have a booth where people could stop by and experience it. We figured in June, people are sick of presentations and they want to be able to engage in something. So we are going to set up a booth that we think will be very well attended. And just wanted to remind folks about the SAU board meeting, which is coming up in a couple of weeks.
What is
May
the day
4th.
of that?
May 4th.
May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you at 6 p.m. We will, and it's at AEMS. So the SAU board meeting for Eric, our new person here, is a combination of the Merrimack Valley School Board and the Andover School Board. So it represents the SAU 46 board.
So it's at 6. Is there going to be dinner?
6:30.
6:30.
6:30?
Well, we're going to have a student presentation, senior
Oh,
project
so
presentations
it's-
at 6.
Oh,
Yep.
right.
So
So it's not a dinner meeting?
it's not a dinner meeting.
Well, it used to
It
be.
used to be. We'll have some snacks.
I
I say that with a high voice because I don't know if I can deliver that promise.
I have a CSI school board meeting
Okay.
that day, so I might be a little bit
Okay.
tardy.
So at 6 o'clock, we've lined up two senior project presentations.
Perfect.
Nice.
And we'll do those inside to avoid the bugs.
Awesome.
And then at 6:30, we'll start the business meeting.
Okay.
Lori and I are working on the agenda. We have a meeting tomorrow.
It'll be a 20-minute meeting.
It will be a 20-minute meeting.
We'll reduce the superintendent report to 3 minutes.
Oh.
There's a challenge.
I'll get it all out now, so I'll keep going tonight. No, that's it for my report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Topics for the next board meeting? Anyone? Yes, Sally.
So I actually want to, I'm not sure how to do this, but I actually want to go back to old business, although this could be a topic for the next board meeting. So I know that when I raised my question before, I was told that because it was not an item on the agenda, that it couldn't be discussed. But I want to note that the current policy that we have for agenda preparation and dissemination has room for items not on the agenda to be discussed. So that reads, items of business not on the agenda may be discussed and acted upon if a majority of the board agrees to consider them. So I want to go about this two ways. So on the one hand, I would ask for permission from the board to bring forward an issue for discussion that won't require any action. If that is not approved, then I have a question about a topic for the next board meeting. So basically, I'm just like, when I raised the issue before, it's not on the agenda, move on. But there is a mechanism for raising issues And I know that we have, as a board, discussed issues that weren't on the agenda. So I would like to seek the board's approval to just bring something forth that is a concern that I don't know that it should wait until next month. But if I have to put it as a topic for the next board meeting, I will.
So that, fine. Are you're making a motion?
Yes, I move, well, I mean, I don't know how to make a motion that's a request
Okay.
for the board. I mean, is that
You
I move
request
that
the
we-
board, well, could
yeah.
you tell us what the topic is?
Yes, the topic is the current district policy regarding administering COVID tests at schools.
Okay. Is there a motion to discuss that this evening?
Sally made the motion.
Well, okay. Is there a second to Sally's motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. So the question is the board willing to discuss this evening? Okay.
So clarification, are we discussing a policy?
It's not a policy,
It's
well,
not a
it's not a policy.
No,
It's a-
this is just, I'm looking to have a brief conversation to seek clarification. That's it. I'm not looking to change anything at this point in time.
Is this a board policy?
Yeah, maybe a district policy. I don't know. That's why I need clarification.
Yeah, I would say we don't have a COVID testing policy. We've had some COVID testing happen as a result of some of the work with the nurses, but there's no written policy
Okay.
in place relative to testing. But I would say administratively, if you have a question, we're more than willing to answer it. And if we don't know
Yeah.
the answer, we can find the answer.
Okay, I mean, that's all I.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So ask the question.
okay, right. So, right, the question is,
Oh,
what,
Yeah,
oh.
go ahead.
okay, so what is the current district policy? Or, what are our practices regarding administering COVID tests at schools? And so let me follow this up with the concern that had been brought to me so that you can better understand why I think clarification is worthwhile. So I'd received an email from a constituent earlier today, which is why, I'm bringing this up right now, who was told by, I'll keep it as anonymous as possible, by an employee at the school at which one of his children attends, that the school is no longer administering COVID tests to students, even to those students whose parents had signed consent forms, as this parent had done. And the parent was also told that there's a cluster in their child's class right now, and that it's the parents' job to test, not the school's, although the individual offered to give the parent a test to use. And so my question is this an aberration from the practice that we have had that has been standard in school buildings, to not test when consent has been given?
So there's been a lot of nurses' discretion built into that. So each nurse at each location has some discretion relative to their capacity to administer the test based on what's happening that day. There is also drive-through testing available to parents. So right now, Pennacook offers a drive-through testing opportunity for parents. We also, as you alluded to, have been able to send tests home to parents so that they can test. There are some schools, based on their capacity and the number of students, and based on permission slips from the parents, have been able to test when students present with symptoms at school. And one of the caveats that nurses have been very cognizant of is the fact that they don't want parents to send kids to school to get a test. It's only when students present with symptoms in an acute fashion where they feel as though it would be beneficial to the student to test at school to rule out COVID. If the student has major symptoms, all of a sudden they're coughing viciously, they have a fever, they have a head cold, all of those, based on the nurse's discretion, they may tell a parent, these symptoms are too acute right now for us to do a test right now. We would suggest that you bring the student home, have them test there so that we can get them out of that environment as soon as possible.
Okay, because that was not actually the situation that was described to me in the email. The employee of the school had indicated that there had been widespread parental pushback against testing in that particular building. which was why testing had fallen by the wayside as a practice in that particular building.
Yeah, so I would just say that, you know, context is important, and I think there's probably a lot of context missing in that. You're obviously getting that third hand from that person relative to and Kathleen and I connect with the nurses all the time, so Kathleen could answer this question as well as I could. But what I expressed to you is the practice that we're, as far as I'm aware of, is the practice that is consistent throughout the district. So if I would encourage that person to reach out to me if they have questions and or seek out the administrator in that building. If they have questions, typically the chain of command, I'm assuming they spoke with a nurse. So typically the next question would go to the administrator in that building. If they're not getting that answer appropriately, they could come to me. But usually questions are best served at the location where the question emerges from.
Okay, right. I mean, the question I got was, you know, is there a policy? You know, what should be happening in
So
the building?
it's because it's so nuanced that there is no policy right now relative to testing.
Okay.
It's going to be based on the capacity of the nurse, what's happening that day, the symptoms that are presented. So there's lots of, that's the reason why there is no black and white policy for that, because there's really no black and white situation.
Okay.
So with parental consent, testing has been happening, but it's not a guarantee because we want to make sure, again, you've heard me reference this a couple times tonight, we don't want to make promises that we can't keep.
Right. And again, in the information I was provided suggested that this wasn't an acute case. It was not a capacity issue. It was, we just don't do that anymore.
Yeah. So again, not knowing the nuance of the conversation, I would say that's not what we've been doing.
Okay.
So I would invite that person to reach out to an administrator.
Okay, I will
Okay.
direct that person.
And I'm keep getting emails pointing out that there is this drive-through testing opportunity at Pennacook
Yep.
every school day,
Almost.
almost every school day. And you do have to call ahead or call to your local nurse to make the appointment. But I am encouraged that there is that testing opportunity for families within the district.
At Pinnacle Elementary School?
Yes.
Yep.
And is it open to families from other
Yes.
schools?
Yeah, it's
open to
for
every
the whole
district.
district. You, I believe, make your appointment through the nurse in your child's building. But I mean, I think that's a good thing that's happening and a service to the families of our district.
Well, and I would also add that the DHHS has no longer is defining clusters, so that cluster language is not necessarily appropriate. And there was something that I forgot to bring up in my report, and Sally, you just reminded me. We've had single digit cases for, I think, 4 or 5 weeks in a row. And in some cases, it's one person at one school. And to be in compliance with HIPAA, in that we're not supposed to be divulging information, medical information that could become identifiable, I would like, one of the things that we've had as a goal for a district is COVID communications. But in those cases, I would like the board's approval to not put out that district letter in that fashion because it becomes identifiable for folks in certain communities.
So can you do a total for the district without naming which school those
Sure.
cases are in?
Yeah.
I mean, I still want to hear where our numbers are district-wide.
Okay.
But it's okay to not identify the school because it is,
And certainly if we add any more,
Right.
not called clusters
Right.
anymore.
Yep.
If we had any more of those.
Yep.
we'd like to know that.
Yeah, because we did have a small identification in one community over the weekend. And I can tell you it was 3 kids.
Okay.
okay.
Thanks.
All right?
Yeah.
Does that take care of it, Sally?
I think so. And I just want to say, I thank you to the board for, allowing me to bring this up. I just was seeking to clarify a question that was brought to me because there was great confusion around it. And, I do feel like offering this, since this is something that doesn't affect just one person, right? This is district-wide. I appreciate the opportunity to spend a little time, not too much time, but just a little time making it a little more understandable as to how things are working. So
Good.
thank you.
Okay. Topics for the next board meeting, anyone? All right, moving on to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment?
So I want to comment, but as a parent. So do you want me to like go sit out
No,
there?
you can
Okay.
stay where you are.
I just wanted to, Bobby Joe Michael Loudon. So I have a lot of concern as a parent about student cell phone use. And I don't know really where to take that concern. It's much higher for me at the high school level, but I think it should be addressed. I think it's more, I don't know, strict, I guess, at the middle school level as far as being able to have them, and certainly not looking to take away any type of parental control from anyone or anything like that. But I just needed to say that. I have a pretty big concern. I think it causes a lot of distraction, and I think outside of school, kids have enough bullying and issues and drama and things that result from cell phones. And I don't know. I don't know what that looks like to address it, but I just wanted to bring it up as a concerned parent.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah.
I was going to stress that if a parent, like at a high school, at least I can't speak to the school as I spoke to middle school, but most teachers have varying like their own rules regarding it. Like I know me and Sam's English teacher, like if it's your out the phone in class, it goes in the phone jail. So I've been put in the phone jail a couple times. But I mean, I think that the current district policy for like teachers have their own rules for it works pretty well, because some classes you're able to get, like, you're able to use your phone without losing too much of like the lesson, while other classes you really need to pay attention and can't be distracted with your phone. So I think the current policy works well.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Anyone else have anything to say? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Sure, I'll do that.
All right. Thank you all for coming. We are adjourned. Not bad.
Not bad.